let's get started. So for watercolor, I have a palette with Quinacridone Gold, Permanent Magenta, and Phthalo Turquoise. There's some Payne's Gray here. We may or may not use that. And there's a little bit of white gouache. But basically, I'm just doing 3 colors. So I've mixed a green over here, and it's pretty watery. So I'm going to do one small tree here, just with that green. And I'm just going to kind of dab in some shapes. I'm using 90-pound Arches cold press watercolor paper. I like that bit of texture in it. And size 8 round brush. Oh, and all the paints are Winsor Newton tube watercolors. So don't want to make this tree too symmetrical. All right, and so I'm leaving myself some space and going kind of light with the colors on this one, so I have some room to come in later. And I'm going to mix up a little more of that green. So that's just the Quinacridone Gold and the Phthalo Turquoise mixed together. You can make a really deep green. These colors are really intense. So, but basically I'm just going in with straight greens here. And I got to remember to leave some space for the birds to come through. Now for a trunk, okay, I'm going to just use the Quinacridone Gold pretty much straight. I think this has a little of the phthalo in it. So just kind of throw that in there. And, all right. So, all right, so that's kind of the one sort of obvious way to do a tree, right? The leaves are green, the trunk is brownish. But there's another approach which I think gives us a more rich result. And that is to put the colors directly on your paper and let them mix on the paper instead of pre-mixing them. And for this, again, we're just going to use the same palette. And you could use any yellow, red, and blue. This is just what I happen to kind of use all the time. And so I make sure these colors are damp enough. And right, so I'll start in with some yellow. And I'm thinking about maybe the light is coming in from this direction over here. So I'm going to start with my lighter color over here. Go back with something a little more pure, but I want it watery. Okay, so do that. And you know, we can kind of mush the colors together as they're on here and kind of add in a little bit of the other colors as we go. Don't do too much. Okay, and this is kind of, again, I'll start with that for the trunk. Still too symmetrical for my liking, but throw in some dark there. And let's leave some white in there for sparkle. And put in our little bit of ground. And maybe some spiky little grasses down here. And if it looks a little incomplete or something, that's good. Leave that a little bit. Right away, I mean, I just see this difference between this pre-mixed green. It's like it's green, it's very flat. And yeah, you could go in and make some darker shadowing, and we'll do that in a bit after it dries. This one, yeah, these colors are super intense, not very realistic because it's a lot of jewel tones, but I mean, this is way more interesting and fun. I might go a little lighter with the color in this version, keep it more watery. Kind of give it more of a base, and then almost, maybe I'm going to kind of drop the color in of the other colors, kind of get the shape of the tree a little bit formed with this lighter color. Maybe I'll just put in a bit of a suggestion of the tree trunk and the ground. Okay, what's our ground level here? Yeah, kind of partly painting and partly drawing with the brush. So on the last tree I'm going to start with the same colors and work pretty wet this time. I mean, I look at that and I just want to sit under that tree and read a book now. So we'll set that aside for just a second. I'm going to come back to it pretty soon. And looking at, our first couple of trees, you could come back and do some detailing with black pen. So now this is completely dry. This one's basically completely dry. And then you can, enhance what's going on here. Now over here, this is still damp. And what I want to do with this is, I'm hoping that this pen give me some, yeah, that's what I want, that it's going to actually run a little bit. Yeah, this Pilot V-Ball, extra fine. I don't know, I just really love these. Okay, so back with the trees, and I've been adding some detail. And let's see, I switched to using this is just an office pen, a Uni-ball Deluxe Micro. So coming back to these trees, they've dried. I added some outlines, and then you can also go in looking at where would the tree really be shading itself. Where is the shadow going to fall? You can continue adding more and more shading and really give it some more emphasis and depth. Some other examples of the same thing, starting with some random shapes and different colors. So those are some different ways to paint trees. Add them to your sketchbooks or notebooks, your nature journals. If you're doing a nature journal, you'll probably want to be a little more realistic and, focus on what's the actual local color. But don't forget that adding these sort of non-expected colors into your trees can just give them so much more excitement, so much more depth. All right, so thank you for tuning in and watching, and I'll see you next time.